Mental telepathy is possible. Hi, I'm Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this is On the Wings of Your Mind. As a spiritual warrior, it's important that you build awareness and understanding that our minds are more powerful than people think they are. So even though mental telepathy is a concept that is mostly discounted in the mundane world, it is actually a thing. It's a thing we should all be aware of. Now, the idea of communicating through thought is not new. It's been talked about for centuries. Unfortunately, it's never been proven, and any attempts to explore it were always met with ridicule and scorn, even today. Now, in the past, it's been persecuted as witchcraft. It's been scorned as quackery. It's been totally dismissed as impossible. Now, all those negative reactions were fear reactions, basically fear of the strange and the unknown. So while people may wish that they could, quote unquote, read minds, it's usually something that they'd only like to do or like to have in order to have power over some other people, rather than as a way to more honestly communicate between people. And I'd venture to guess that most of those people who would want to be able to read minds would hesitate most quickly at having their own minds being read. Please click on the thumbs up button below, and if you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. And remember, I'm always looking for your thoughts and comments regarding your experiences with infinite intelligence and with life, and any questions that you may have about anything. So please use the chat box on the left or in the comment section below. So first of all, let's clarify what we're discussing. In my mind, and for the sake of the discussion, there are three types of mental communication. First is the skill of reading someone else's thoughts without sharing your own thoughts. This is called mind reading. Second is the kind where two or more people communicate specific information or have conversations through their minds. I call this mental telepathy. And third is picking up non-specific information from another person's thoughts in a general way that triggers a reaction in you as well as in other people around you. This I call general mental receptivity. General mental receptivity. Now, mind reading is a talent we are used to seeing in the fantasy world of science fiction, graphic novels, and movies. For instance, in the X-Men movies, there are mutants who can read the minds of those around them. And in the group of the X-Men, those who can read minds have agreed to do so or not to do so without permission. In the Twilight Saga movies about the vampires, Robert Pattinson, his character, Edward Cullen, can read minds as a vampire. And of course, aliens from other planets in the movies can almost always read the minds of inferior human beings, like the alien twins in the movie Race to Witch Mountain. Now, mind reading is also used for comedy. In some movies like the Mel Gibson movie in the year 2000, What Do Women Want?, where he was getting directly the thoughts of women around him. And then in 2019, they flipped it, and Taraji P. Henson did a movie called What Do Men Want?, in which, through an accident, she was able to read the minds of the men around her. And in numerous movies about the distant future, mental telepathy, or the ability to mentally communicate with other people, is pretty standard between humans. Well, there are a couple of Netflix series that I'd refer to. One is called Sense8, in which teams or pods of people were able to verbally and visually communicate with each other in their minds. And another one in a Netflix series called Travelers, where a group of time travelers are able to vividly communicate with each other with their minds. So in these movies, as well as in books and graphic novels, as I mentioned, it is as if the people have a continuous telephone converse connection between each other. But for today's spiritual warrior, I'm not talking about mind reading to pick up others' thoughts or mental telepathy to bypass verbal communication. While I do think we have the dormant ability to communicate mentally, I think we actually can mentally use mental telepathy. But I think that ability within us has been so suppressed for so long that it'll take nurturing and developing over generations before it can actually become a reliable form of communication between us. No, what I'm talking about today is general telepathy or general mental receptivity. The everyday, run-of-the-mill mental telepathy that happens every day. First of all, let me remind you that we are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. And since infinite intelligence is in us, as us, we are all part of one mind, one great infinite mind. It's called universal mind, or sometimes called cosmic consciousness, or sometimes called infinite intelligence. Whatever it's called, we exist in this infinite pool of thought, and we all have access to it. That's why ideas can pop up simultaneously in more than one person at a time. You've got inventions that are being pursued in different parts of the world all at the same time without any communication between the people who are doing the inventions. They just picked up on the idea out of the universe, out of the universal mind. There are movies that are being produced on the same subject, almost exactly the same movie, interpreted a little different, but they're being made at the same time, though the filmmakers are not even in communication with each other. For instance, in 2013, there were two movies about the White House being attacked by terrorists. One was called Olympus Has Fallen, and the other one is called White House Down. Olympus Has Fallen, White House Down. Basically, the same movie, interpreted in two different ways, shot and produced and released around the same time. In 1993, we had the same thing happen with the Wyatt Earp story. We had Wyatt Earp with Kevin Costner on one hand, and then Tombstone with Kurt Russell playing Wyatt Earp. Around the same time, basically the same subject matter. We can experience phenomena of mental telepathy in our lives with the seemingly coincidental occurrence of receiving a phone call from someone you were just thinking about. I'm sure that's happened to you more than one occasion. I was just thinking about you, and here you are calling. It happens. But you know what? It's actually not an accident. It's not a coincidence. It's a real mental connection that has occurred. And it happened because we are all in that same pool of thought. You and your friend were already connected because of past experience. So you were tuned into each other's frequency. As a result, when one began thinking about calling the other, the receiver got the mental alert that the call was coming because of the connection between the two. Just as a bit of confirmation, in quantum physics, there's something called quantum entanglement theory. Quantum entanglement theory. That theory says that when a pair or group of particles interact, then they are forever linked and will react at the same time in the same way to the forces that affect one particle, even if the other particles are separated by a large distance. So whatever you do to one is being done to the others, no matter how far away they are, at the same time. It's like radio or television tuning in. You know, there are millions of signals out there, radio and television signals in the atmosphere, but you only see what your TV is tuned into or what your radio is tuned into. No matter how much there is out there, Only what you're specifically tuned into appears on the TV or the radio. It's the same with your telephone. There are millions of conversations going on right now, but the only conversation that you're involved in is the one that is tuned in to your telephone number and picked up by you. Please click on the thumbs up button below, and if you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. And remember, I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts, and your questions. So, as we continue, excuse me. So what brought this subject to mind for me was a complaint from my son, Tony. Tony is currently in the hospital after open heart surgery. And so what Tony complained about is that he can be sitting in his room for hours with nobody bothering him, with nothing happening, nobody calling. And then suddenly, all at the same time, there are people in his room doing tests. His phone is ringing off the hook as one person after another calls at the same time. This is what I see as an example of general mental receptivity. General mental receptivity. So what's happening at that time? Well, let's say a nurse who has specific things she's supposed to be doing at specific times is reminded that it's time for her to do a check on Tony Bozeman. So immediately that thought goes out into the ethos. And this thought going out into the ocean of thoughts is immediately picked up by anyone who is linked to Tony Bozeman, because they pick up the thought, and they pick up the thought of Tony's name vibration, and they decide to call. So when that person decides to call, I'm going to call Tony Bozeman, then immediately it's spread out again into the ethos, and what happens? Into the ethers. And everybody else who's connected to Tony Bozeman decides to call. And all of a sudden, Tony's phone is ringing off the hook as everybody's reacting to that same thought form. So, general mental receptivity, mental telepathy. It's possible we do it all the time. So tomorrow what I'm going to do is I'm going to share more examples of general mental receptivity to illustrate its reality and discuss how it works in your life. And then I'll discuss how, as a spiritual warrior, you can use it to bring about positive change in your life as well as in the lives around you. So, tomorrow, general receptivity, mental telepathy, mind reading, all having to do with how powerful our minds are as we operate within infinite intelligence, where we are all individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. So again, we're closing in prayer. Thank you, infinite intelligence. Thank you for bringing all of us together here in this life so that we may become spiritual warriors and join in the work we have come here to do. Thank you, infinite intelligence, for bringing us into this space of awareness and a deeper understanding of ourselves and our relationship to life and to the continuity of life. Thank you, infinite intelligence. Thank you for showing us who and what we really are. As we open our minds and hearts to the truth of our being, we are the children of God. We are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. And because we are a part of the greater whole, we are beginning to understand our value to the continuity of life on this planet. As we become channels of your power, infinite intelligence, we can feel your presence within ourselves and within our lives more and more and more each day. And as we feel your presence within our lives every day, we will rise because we are no longer cut off from you by being immersed in the darkness of fear, anger, and the pain of unforgiveness. So we are now restoring our connection through the grace of forgiveness, knowing that as we learn to forgive ourselves for the pain that we have caused to ourselves, and as we learn to forgive those who inflicted pain upon us, our connections will grow stronger, and our lives will grow happier, and healthier, and more prosperous. And for this, We are truly grateful. As above, so below. As within, so without. And so it is. Amen. Please choose to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Please click on the thumbs up button below. Remember, I'd love to hear your thoughts, your questions, your comments, and your experiences with infinite intelligence. Please use the chat box or the comments section below this video. Remember, tomorrow we are talking more about mental telepathy and how it works in your life. In the meantime, thank you very, very much for watching. I appreciate the time that you have given me. I am Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this has been On the Wings of Your Mind.